So Jay and Silent Bob have been all over the place. They've been out front of a convenience store, in a mall, giving relationship advice, in a diner. It feels like there's only one next logical step, right?
Of course, it's so obvious.
Yeah, two prophets in a grand holy crusade.
Yeah, wait, what? How'd we get here?
Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies. Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
G'day, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Grand Bishop Reese.
And today, the grand prophets of Marathon Me are back to welcome you to another episode of our Kevin Smith View Askew-averse. Actually, you know what? We're spilling the gospel right now. The gospel of Kevin Smith. And why are we using so many of these very biblical buzzwords right now? I wonder why, Reese. I wonder. Maybe it's because we're looking at Kevin Smith's fourth directorial effort. His big epic, one could say. 1999's Dogma. Do you have much of a context with this film, Reese? Much of a history at all, by any chance?
It's nice to be back on the religious texts. It hasn't really been since The Omen that we've really spoken so much about religion. So good to be back on the ninth Catholic saddle.
Yes, exactly. Two non-religious guys talking about religious texts. You know, it is it's the way God intended.
Yeah, I never really resonated too hard with Dogma. It was a little bit of a black sheep for me, of one that I never really heard too much about when I was first getting into Kevin Smith, and I almost sort of overlook it a little bit in his sort of mainline viewer skew-universe sort of stuff. So
yeah.
I'm not the biggest initial fan of this film. I wasn't I wasn't extremely excited to get back into this. Other than the reason of just, the exploration of all of the viewer skew stuff. But I think that from memory, you were quite a big fan of this movie.
I remember, the first time I watched it, I think I watched this one a bit later after all the other early viewer skew-averse movies. This might have been the last one that I watched from my 6-movie box set, and I remember quite enjoying it. I remember loving it the last, during our first kind of marathon of Kevin Smith. I remember really loving it, and what's very funny is that, my most recent, I rewatched this, I think, last year. Didn't care for it all that much, honestly. I have a bit of context as to why I rewatched it, but I'll get into that later, but I was very keen on going into this one. It's just because my opinion just seems to flip flop on this. I either love it or I'm it's alright.
Oh, I love a flip flop movie. I love a movie that my opinion changes every time that I watch it. And with this was the most difficult movie by far for me to get my hands on and to watch, because this is actually something that you were blessed with the privilege of having it on physical media, because did you know, Kane, that not just in Australia but all across the world, it's been pretty hard to get your hands on watching Dogma for the last few years.
I only just found that out last year, I think, on my most recent rewatch. I remember it might have been a couple weeks after I watched it, and I heard that same thing where it is basically borderline impossible to get your hands on a physical copy of Dogma, and I'm like, ooh, I've got a little piece of treasure on me.
But physically, even digitally, as in you can't rent it on Apple TV or on Prime Video, Amazon Video or anything like that.
Yes, it's a 28 days later situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it have to do? I'm assuming it has something to do with distribution rights.
Well,
am I correct?
Here is the reason why. Is that when, you may not have heard about this, but Harvey Weinstein, a very big part of the Weinstein Corporation and Miramax and pretty much all of these viewer skew movies, there was a bit of controversy with him at some point. in the 2010s. That sort of began this movement called the Me Too movement. Crazy, I know, right? Not a lot of publicity.
Never heard of it. Yeah, but go on.
Yeah, and essentially, like, so he was cancelled more than pretty much anyone has ever been cancelled before, ever. The biggest cancellation that Hollywood has ever seen, rightfully so. And when he sort of came out and got out of the game, he took some IP with him. Like, as in, some IP that belonged to Miramax, he went, fuck you guys, I'm gonna own, like, I have the power and the money to own some of this IP personally.
Fucking piece of shit.
And one of his movies that he was a big fan of working on, that he wanted to own, was Kevin Smith's Little Dogma.
I was just about to make a joke of being like, oh man, he must have been a big Dogma fan for that one of those IPs to be the ones that he decided, like, yeah, I'm gonna hold on to that.
And he legitimately was, man, to the point that he was like, I'm going to keep this one in my own. He, like, it's the equivalent of, you know, you've been fired from your office job, and then you just, like, fill your pockets with pens that you're stealing from the office before you leave. He filled his pockets with film reels that he owns complete distribution rights to. So, But this story comes with a nice conclusion, is that at the end of last year, only very recently, Kevin Smith was able to get the rights back to Dogma.
Woo! Hell yes. We love a happy ending. I mean, I do feel to be a bit selfish, you know, I did have a bit of a power trip by, you know, being able to own a physical copy of Dogma, but you know what? It is what it is, you know. I guess it's all right that a lot of other people get to see this film in this day and age, I guess. Fair enough.
Really, really is one of those examples of just how good physical media is. Like, as in, you sort of do own that now, and no one can take it away from you unless they wanted to seize the disc from your home.
Like Harvey Weinstein himself is going to break out of prison and get out of whatever fucking ICU deathbed that piece of shit is in, and he's going to come and be like, yeah, I want my DVD back.
Imagine.
I'm assuming he's on his deathbed at least.
Imagine if that was his sort of post-cancellation redemption or retribution, is he's like, I'm going to get back at everyone by going to collect and seize every copy of Dogma that exists out there.
Oh my fucking god, Jesus.
But thank God that, you know, that enemy has been slain. And it's a bit of an interesting one, and would have really hurt for Kevin Smith to have this one taken away from him, because after 3 very sort of indie, low-key, sort of smaller films, this is his sort of grand, most mainstream debut, it feels like, in the way that it's like, this is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, like, at this point, a freaking Oscar-winning duo in Hollywood. Everyone,
this is post-Good Will Hunting type shit.
Yeah. Everyone wants to get their hands on Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they are like the main characters in this movie. They're right in the middle of this movie poster for him.
Oh, yeah, it's nuts.
And Kevin has never had this much money for a film. He got given $10 million to make this one.
Ooh,
and you know, not really celebrated as a massive success, but you know, they made $30 million in response to this. So
that's not bad.
Not a crazy failure either. But it is definitely a different sort of approach to the films that we've seen already in this Fusc universe.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, we've gone from kind of the more indie fare to basically, for lack of a better word, kind of, you know, Kevin Smith's first blockbuster, really. And, you know, does more money make a better film? Well, you just have to find out right after the trailer.
Is this why I had to come down here this morning, man? Is this why I had to miss my cartoons? You call me, you tell me it's important.
We're going home. Take it, man, and quit leering at me. People are gonna think I just broke up with you.
2 fallen angels have just discovered a loophole that can get them back into heaven.
Outstanding work!
All they have to do is get to Red Bank, New Jersey. There's only one problem.
What are you? What do you want with me?
Stop a couple of angels from entering and thus negating all existence. I hate it when people need it spelled out for them.
Now,
I'm to charge you with a holy crusade.
one person has been chosen to stop them, but she won't have to do it alone.
I'm Jay. This is my head of a life mate, Silent Bob.
You gotta be kidding me.
So, Kevin Smith's fourth film, his big blockbuster starring, the brainchildren of Good Will Hunting, one of the biggest movies of the late 90s. It should be a it should have been a surefire hit back then, and it should be a surefire hit for us now. So, Reese, I want to hear your opinion. Tell the fans, what did you think of Dogma?
So it really is a film where Kevin Smith has the sky is the limit for him now, it feels like. As in, you have all these crazy big name actors at your disposal. You've got CGI shit monsters going around the place. It really is a totally new sort of sandwich that he's been given to take a massive bite out of. And with this sky being the limit, there is so much fun to be had. There's so much to like, and I pretty much did have a smile on my face throughout the whole thing, but I'm not too interested in a rewatch because all of his last three films are all sort of comedies that rely on this human message to go on. They're much smaller stories and very interpersonal. It's all about the stakes and the scale all is with a person's life and one person's world collapsing around them. But because this is something much grander and more epic in scale, and is not just someone's someone's personal world at stake, this film sees the whole world at stake. And even past this point, Kevin Smith hasn't made a movie with stakes that high. And because it relies on the stakes being taken seriously and the drama feeling real, I think that this all does come across as quite serviceable. But what then it does lack is that it forgets about that sort of vulnerable human narrative that I think that Kevin does is his strength.
No, that's fair enough.
And in this sort of slapstick world, I feel like that the grand stakes, it's a lot harder to take seriously. And I feel like I'm not in it that deep because of that.
No, okay, I get you.
But what do you feel about it? Being quite a fan of this one.
I mean, in a way, I do have to agree with you that. Because, alright, just to get out of the way, I had a great time with this. I had a blast with this film. But you are right, though, that it lacks kind of that. It lacks what made his previous three films so strong, is that, those previous three films, they kind of focus on, for lack of a better word, the human experience kind of thing, stuff that an audience member can sit down and heavily relate to, whether it be the dead end job antics of clerks or distractions and love love of that of chasing Amy or mole rats kind of thing. But with this, it's it goes like this: is that the central story and themes and what it's trying to do is fun, and you do have a great time in the moment, but it doesn't leave a lot that you can really say think about or analyze or really even relate to at the end of the day. I mean, maybe this is also coming from an experience of two guys who are not religious watching this film. Maybe someone that practices Catholicism maybe gets something more out of it, although maybe also probably hates this film. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't talked to many Catholics that have watched Dogma, but it's never too late. But it does lack that almost human touch. It's a great time, and it is and it is very funny, but it's not exactly something that it's not exactly a film where I'd isolate a scene or a line. I'd be like, yes, this is very life affirming. There's not a lot of life affirming moments compared to his previous three films. Yeah,
Totally. It's there's certain things that I don't agree with you there, and the way that I think that this definitely does have something to say, and potentially something more and grander to say than some of his other stuff. But,
sure, yeah.
But it does lack that sort of humanity. And, and I feel what this whole film, the idea of it, is based in this concept that religion needs some sort of updating. And I think that even, like, Buddy Christ as, like, a symbol in this, the Jesus Christ symbol with his thumbs up, like, pointing and celebrating and off to the side, is that sort of embodies the idea of what Kevin Smith almost wants Catholicism to embrace. Is that it's like, we're no longer living in these sort of, like, medieval times where, like, you know, a lot of people are taking the text as closely at face value as it was read and taken, like read hundreds of years ago. And I think that what he's saying here is that it's like, no, we live in a different world now, so we need to read the Bible a bit differently.
This shit needs an update.
The structure and rules of religion are what's sort of wrong. But the idea behind faith itself is very pure. And it's so interesting, right? Because there was so much controversy surrounding this film when it first came out. Actually, even apparently, the controversy was not even when it came out. It was before it came out. It was when murmurs in Hollywood went around about the premise and the concept of this movie. When that was sort of circulating, that is when when like the sort of the vocal Catholic majorative started bearing arms up against this film.
I could imagine. I've heard like some stories about like that whole era before the film even like bloody came out, kind of thing, of like, you know, people hate it, you know, like the whole Catholic protesting group, like, just like fighting hard against it. I mean, hell, like, I mean, I'm sure I think you were probably gonna say this anyways, but like, didn't Kevin Smith like even like disguise himself as one of the protesters just to like get people's insights on why they don't want the film to come out? Am I right on that?
I've not heard of this. This is fresh news to me.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah, well, yeah, that's, I remember reading about that years ago, kind of thing. I think, maybe I'm getting some details wrong, but I do remember reading about that years ago, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, I like that.
Interesting,
cool.
That's cool. That guerrilla research on your own film. That's a great approach, honestly. Good on you, Kevin.
Yeah, no, honestly.
It's one of those things that, of course, you can see how it would be perceived in this way, and it could be quite like a threat. It would feel like a threatening film on like Catholicism. But
of course, yeah, sure.
But then apparently the movie came out and the controversy sort of went away. People saw the movie and their arguments sort of had a bit of a pin put into it. And you can see sort of why, because when I watch this movie, I see it as quite a sort of like positively religious film. Like I can also see the claim of blasphemy being sort of thrown around with this.
Yeah, right.
Even in the way that it's like a lot of people would find it quite offensive that even like a god is visually represented in this as like a woman, But then they like go back on this and like say in the film itself, they're like, oh, actually, God doesn't have a gender. God is just a thing, a being, a life form,
a construct kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, and it really like it's something that I think you could only get offended by if you're going into it like almost looking to be offended by it. But ironically, so. This sort of backwards, in Kevin Smith's sort of contention, this backwards sort of practice of Catholicism in taking the text just as face value, you are more likely to be offended by this film if you don't take it at face value. If you take it at face value, then you're more likely, I think, to come out of it and be like, oh, okay, this actually is quite supportive of like Catholicism and God and this idea of religion.
Yeah, no, like going into it, like I agree with you. Where I be watching it, I'm like, okay, like obviously, like obviously, like Kevin Smith and company, they're poking fun at like some of the little like the some of the quote unquote ridiculousness of some of the rules and what have you of the Bible and religious texts and all that. But it never at least from my viewing, it never felt like it was mean spirited or in like a very like an edgelord kind of way, I'm 14 and I'm an atheist kind of way. Like it felt like it was done in like how you would write good satire kind of thing. Like it's a well written satire of religion and less so like a piss take,
Oh, totally. And it's also a satire. I think that the tone of this satire is in a way of making fun of something that you wish to be changed and in defense of. Like they're sort of pulling the piss out of, I think, the parts that they think could and should be changed about Catholicism to make it better and to almost foster it into a new generation. Instead of being like down with this, it's the same way that you would make fun of something that you want to defend and build up to make stronger, I think.
Right, yeah.
Instead of down with the system, I think. On this sort of idea of faith, I want to talk about how like this film has a protagonist that you almost sort of forget about because it doesn't really market itself on the protagonist of this film. Is that even though that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are right there on the movie poster, we actually follow this character named Bethany, who is our protagonist, and I quite like her. I think she's very, very good. Do you have many thoughts on Bethany?
I mean, she was fine. Like, not my favorite Kevin Smith protagonist per se. I liked her, and like, I did find, I definitely found her like central kind of conflict and story a lot more captivating upon this watch, but it's something that it kind of similar to like a lot of my feelings on this film is that like in the moment I quite enjoy, but I don't really end up thinking about a lot of it after having turned the film off. Like that's how I felt at the very least.
Okay, yeah. I feel that I like the approach of this like first proper female protagonist in a Kevin Smith movie.
Yeah,
and I think that she feels quite real, and I love.
Oh yeah, she's written well. Yeah, and like I agree. She feels real, kind of thing. It's just didn't leave a lot of an impact on me, kind of thing. After finishing the film, obviously.
I really, really love how they set her up as well to sort of interact with the movie itself. So this whole movie that's based around Catholicism and faith, it's like her sort of crisis in this film is that she's a divorcee, she's barren, and she's sort of losing a bit of direction in her life, and she's sort of losing her faith too. Like we introduce to her going to church out of complete obligation, not because she actually wants to, not because it's anything that she really cares about anymore. And it's like her sort of the interpersonal story in this film is then her regaining of faith, and I really, really liked how her character interacted with that. But I getcha. I do have very particular thoughts though on how it ended, which I'll say are my like final thoughts of the movie.
Okay.
But I want to sort of more take this now to say that it's like the characters are quite compelling all throughout this film. I thought. Do you have some highlights?
In terms of characters?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, he's not in it a lot, but Alan Rickman's character Megaton. I just called him. His name sounds like Megatron in the fucking movie, but like Alan Rickman in this movie, bro. In the brief screen time he has, God, he's so fucking funny. Oh my days.
I loved Megatron in this so much.
Oh, dude, mate, he's such a catty bitch in the movie. I love it so much. Oh my god. Like, you got Alan Rickman in this. You got Jan Silent Bob, doing their Jan Silent Bob stuff. And bro, they're on their degenerate A game in this. Love to see it from them.
You know who was on their freaking A game in this movie? Jason Mewes, man.
Oh,
He's
my
so
days.
good in this.
Yes. Oh my god. Because this is like the most screen time that we've gotten out of our favorite drug dealer duo so far. Really.
They're like along for the main journey, where they're always just like in the background so far in these films, and like, man, I really, really loved listening to the commentary of this one because it was actually a little bit. I think that I've already stated this a little bit, but when you're going through these films, right, you're not just following the career and trajectory of Kevin Smith. You're following a whole group of friends and their careers sort of exploding and spanning off, right? Some will be like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who, you know, show their faces, they're the lead in this, and then they're a freaking megastar. Or you see Brian O'Halloran, who, like, becomes, like, you know, like, he pretty much exists in pop culture as Dante, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then Jason Mewes, such an interesting character to explore in this as his character, and I mean, like, in real life, is that he's just sort of a dude that one of his old best friends sort of took him under his wing to play this like this sort of young version of himself, and throughout the first 3 films, he's drinking excessively, he's doing drugs excessively, and like in the fucking director's commentary for Clerks and Mallrats, he's I think in Clerks he's drunk, and in Mallrats he's asleep under the table. Like, legitimately, you can hear him snoring during this director's commentary. And
insightful. I'd love to hear his thoughts.
And Kevin fights for his inclusion in these movies every single time as he gets more and more sort of mainstream and big budget and like supported by a studio. It's like he has to sell way more to people that it's like, hey, like, can we cast my friend in this? And leading up to Dogma, with this being not just a big project in the scale of how much money he's been given and everything like this, but also this has been a movie that Scott Mosier and Kevin Smith have had in the works for a long time.
Isn't that the one that they tease at the end of Clerks?
At the end of Clerks, they already have this in their mind. I
can't believe I never knew that. What the fuck?
In an ideal world, this would have been their second movie, but of course you can't, like with the Mallrats budget of $3 million, you couldn't have made Dogma.
No, hell no.
And yeah, so there was a lot going for this, and Kevin took Jason aside and was sort of like, you've got to step your game up for this one. You're not just acting alongside, you know, your buddies like Jason Lee and fucking like Randall and shit like that. You're gonna be like acting against Alan Rickman. Like he's like a thespian, this man.
Like you're going against some big dog, so you kind of need to step up your game.
And Jason Mewes apparently was like, who the fuck's Alan Rickman? And and he's like, so you really, really got to like go, like you really have to like step up your game here, dude. And then after a few weeks of the actors having their scripts, Kevin and Jason, they met up at a restaurant together to sit down, go over a few lines together, thinking that they could like, you know, practice a little bit of the delivery. And Jason shows up and he's got no script with him. And Kevin's like, dude, fuck, I told you to, like, you got to step up your game, and didn't even bring the script with you. And Mewes is like, nah, man, I'm off book already. And remembered the entire script. And not just his lines in the script, the entire script, line for line, including other people's lines too.
My fucking man.
And Kevin is like, what the fuck? What? Jason, why do you do this? Why do you do this? And apparently, Jason Mewes goes, I want to piss off this Alan Rickman fuck. How good is that?
That is fucking sick, dude. I love it.
And it's like, and you can feel it and you can see it, that this work, that he fucking stepped his game up in this movie.
Oh yeah, completely. I'll always love his more amateurish style in, you know, the original Clerks and everything, and how it's just a fucking dude. It's just one of his mates kind of thing. I'll always love that era of, you know, Jason Mewes, but like, seeing like a more kind of, he's more roped in, but he still has that Jay charm kind of thing. Like it doesn't feel like it's watered down or anything. You know what I mean? He's still vile. He's still like just being a fucking bit of a creep, a bit of an idiot, bit of a child kind of thing. But like, the likability's still there, and like is able to like, again, like as we said earlier, stand toe to toe with like these pretty like well-known actors at the time. Your Alan Rickmans, your Chris Rocks, your bloody Ben Afflecks and Matt Damons. Like it's really fucking special to see, honestly. Like it's almost like he's one of our mates, and we're looking and we're like, good on you, bro. You fucking
yes. Yeah, there really is something to say about the sort of friendship that you feel with these characters and these actors as you're going through this journey of the viewer Skuniverse.
Completely.
And on the other hand, Silent Bob, something that I have to mention here is that holy shit, Kevin just writes himself to do the coolest shit in this movie. Like as in, like just at this point, it's almost a little bit of a joke of just how he's like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to write this down. I want to do this shit. And like a moment that, I think is so funny that the concept that he wrote himself to do this is like in the train scene when they have this big sort of fight and battle, and Kevin fucking beats like the shit out of two angels and like defends the train and everyone from these people.
And then proceeds to chuck them out the train, and then quote Indiana Jones right afterwards. Like it. This is like
ticket. It's so good.
It is bored. Like this is like. It is very like yes, director self insert kind of thing, but like. It's like almost out of like how do you call it, like this is fun, I want to do this kind of thing, this would be really cool. It doesn't have that kind of level of like egregiousness that like something like a Tarantino cameo would have. I mean, I guess also what helps is that Kevin Smith isn't talking, and he isn't spouting some of the vile shit that Tarantino would in like say his Pulp Fiction cameo per se. You know what I mean? So
Kevin Smith. I don't know. Does Kevin Smith say the N-word at all in any of these movies? I don't think so. I think he gets Randall to say all those in Clerks too.
I would certainly hope not. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But it's quite endearing. Honestly, it's endearing compared to that of a Tarantino cameo.
Especially in a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, right? Like in a film that you watch and you go, it looks like everyone's having fun here.
Yeah,
and the fun is infectious when you watch the film.
Dude, speaking of dudes, you go first.
Where like in something like a Pulp Fiction that takes itself quite seriously and is like made to be like art and cinema sort of thing.
Yeah, like this has to say something.
Yeah, then Tarantino's self-insert's much more self-indulgent.
Oh yeah, completely. Oh, that's the fucking phrase I was thinking of. Oh, self-indulgent. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Speaking of fun actors having fun with each other, bro. Oh my! I think my favorite characters to watch in this, which is Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, bro. Just watching their dynamic in the film as like there's just these these two angels that are just like also just almost that of bickering brothers. Like it was so much fun to watch, man. I fucking loved it, honestly.
They are very fun to watch. Also, just I think kudos to the costuming team. I think that the angel uniform being these like sort of trench coat, like these like sort of jumpers with like a blazer trench coat over it. So fucking good. Very cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is great seeing them just bickering and being like sort of being a little bit like these antsy kids. As these angels, very cool.
Like literal kids. Like their whole thing is they're literally like kids that got scolded by their fucking parents, kind of thing, and they're trying to scheme their way back into their good graces, kind of thing. Like that's a great way to kind of sum their whole thing up.
It takes like the archetype of like a Dante and Randall, two best friends that have known each other and are so almost like codependent since they were freaking children.
Yeah.
But then instead of, being sort of this like middle class, lower to middle class, like town and economy and then growing up to work at a convenience store together, instead they're angels that have all these powers and have been like the most privileged upon sort of creatures in the world.
Yeah.
But same sort of similar dynamic, which is so much fun to watch. And
completely.
But something that I don't really buy is that, so there's this dynamic going on where Ben Affleck is the more, I should call them by their actual names in this. So
show some respect on their names.
Bartleby is the sort of more level-headed and calm, collected sort of angel. Where then Loki, of course, he's the mischievous one. Matt Damon is the one that sort of wants to go in there and fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And then there's this turn in the film where they sort of swap temperament, and it's over like one moment. Honestly, there's like there are seeds and lines planted in Bartleby where he's sort of like, oh, I don't mind this. I don't mind being a little bit tricky and evil. But in the way that they so cleanly, in one moment, that Loki almost like sobers up and becomes level-headed at the same time that Bartleby is like, no, now I am this mischievous devil. I feel was done not that cleanly, and I felt was a little bit forced.
Upon when I was watching this when I was younger, I never understood understood why they had this like sudden character switch kind of thing, and I think I got it during like my last year's rewatch, but like this time it really like I understood why kind of thing. Like, obviously you got Bartleby who wants, he was obviously the more level-headed one. He's the one that basically talks Loki out of, like, all the genocides and, basically being, like, the angel of death kind of thing. And not only develops a taste for that kind of, focused violence and chaos, but also, because, like, it's explained in the movie that he's doing it almost as, like, because he has a resentment towards the human race kind of thing, because obviously because he's been, he sees that he sees himself as being like, cast out and, betrayed by God kind of thing. And seeing, how, the human race basically like, they choose whether or not to believe in God and they choose to destroy the planet. He grows this huge resentment towards the human race for said thing. And like, I think it is a really interesting point to make, but I do agree that you could have had a couple more scenes developing that to make the turn have more weight, I guess, Yeah,
you know what it is? I think that I buy the Bartleby turn to evil. What I do not though is Loki getting all of a sudden sobering up when Bartleby like goes the opposite direction. It feels to me a little bit out of necessity of having this yin and yang dynamic. I think they should have just gone with the approach of maybe just having them both sort of. Loki's like, hell yeah, man, now you get what I'm doing, now I get what you're saying, and then almost building this tension and these stakes of like, oh shit, now the two angels both are like sort of working out of malice and almost have and I think it could be more threatening then, because it's like all of the power and the threat is taken out of Loki after this, where you've spent the movie like building the threatening presence of Loki. Like he murders a freaking room full of executives and people, and then you decide to go for the last act. No, he's not evil anymore, so he's not a threat.
Yeah, it is really bizarre, honestly. I mean, hell, he nearly murders, like, he spares that last chick in the boardroom, and then, threatens to kill her because she didn't say God bless you. And then, obviously to then have him just immediately turn, it is, I mean, what they could have done is, either they could have done, how you would have preferred them to go, where it's, he is completely on board with Bartleby going homicidal, maniacal kind of thing, or even like, he's on board with it, but maybe have some lines of dialogue, maybe an extra scene or two where maybe you have Loki questioning it. At least have a scene of Loki being on board, then question it, and then be against it, kind of thing. Would it have worked?
Yes, I agree.
Maybe not. I don't know. But what I do know is that like you could have at least had a bit more development to at least have Loki's heel turn make a lot more sense, kind of thing. You know.
Maybe one thing that also is a reason for this is that the original cut of this movie was about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, fuck me.
And they had to cut out a lot of stuff.
Oh, my God. And like that's one thing I will say is that I like this movie, but, like, not that it drags, but, like, I don't... You don't need it to be like that. You don't need it to be the same length as, like, say, like Ben-Hur or anything, like an actual biblical epic. Like
yeah, true. That's a very, very good point.
Honestly, that would have been kind of genius. I'll kind of backtrack my statement for a second. That would be kind of genius on Kevin Smith's part. You make a religious satire. Why not go the full mile?
Kevin Smith's Ben Him. I think that's what he should have done. Made some sort of like, that's actually a great idea. Have like a fucking have an intermission. Do like the sort of the prologue build of music, like just the instrumental piece.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I would love if he did that.
Would it be a bit egregious and self-indulgent? Sure, but Kevin Smith, make it happen. All right, I'm very curious now.
It's almost like so it would be next level of self-awareness though, and like parodying himself even more to a level that I don't think he's done yet.
Right.
But okay, another character that we have to bring up is that Jason Lee comes back as Azrael.
Azrael, yes.
With a killer fucking smile, this man, and a white suit that unfortunately he did not get to keep.
That is really that's honestly probably the saddest thing in this whole movie and production kind of thing. But oh boy, maybe he didn't get to keep the suit, but goddamn, like you said, he's got that winning smile going on right now. I love that. Every Kevin Smith movie that we've watched that has Jason Lee pop up, it's like you slowly get that gradual Earl transformation. We're getting that. We're getting his slow descent into Earl/Dave Seville. We're slowly getting there. I can just smell the Midwest, the Camden County motel musk on him, and I can see the mustache microscopically appearing as we speak.
The whiskers coming slowly, one movie at a time.
Exactly.
And you know what? I think that this My Name is Earl actually makes so much sense. And you know why?
Why?
Is that Azrael is committing so many sins. So many that his guilt got to the best of him, and he had to write a list of all of them and then solve them one by one.
Well, I mean, we only really got to see flashbacks of what Earl did to wrong individuals, and it was from his point of view. For all we know, Earl could have been an unreliable narrator. We don't know.
Yeah. There's, he just doesn't talk about that past of his. Yeah, and Randy is just one of his sort of like demonic sidekicks.
Yes.
just like the hockey kids in this.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which the hockey kids I find annoying as fuck. I do not like their inclusion in this movie.
I was literally about to say, it's like, okay, what are they supposed? Are they just supposed to? If you had 4, I was thinking, are they trying to do the Horsemen of the Apocalypse? But there's only 3. If you had 4, then you could at least make that connection, maybe. But they don't. They're just goons. They're just hired goons, man. I will say though, the one thing I did like about the hockey kids is that, and I don't even know if you're even gonna get this, but one of the kid with the long brown hair, he looked like a young Aphex twin. So I like that. Do you know Aphex twin at all, Reese?
No, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Big IDM producer. No, okay, fair
No,
enough.
sorry.
I don't listen to him, but I do know who he is. But anyways, that was my one monicum of enjoyment from him. From those kids.
So these kids are the Stygian triplets, which I believe has something to do with, like, with the Bible that I don't really get. They are some sort of like religious figure.
Okay.
But I think that maybe it's just the terrible CGI of them tearing into like the fabric of reality and like jumping in and out from that.
God.
I am not into.
Dude,
and also.
Oh, it looks like a scene from the next movie that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, true.
Oh my God.
And maybe it's just, these teenagers with hockey sticks sort of being the most violent characters almost in this movie. Just don't really hit. Doesn't really hit for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like, they was just in one ear out the other for me, man. Like, there was no impact at all.
Yeah, you know what does unsettle the fuck out of me in this movie? The shit demon. The shit demon,
my God.
I think, is actually super unsettling. Very, especially to the. It's a practical like suit that they use for the shit demon.
See, I always wondered that. Like, whenever all my memories of Dogma were always like because like that was the one thing I knew about Dogma when I first watched this film when I was like, a teenager. I knew about the shit demon scene, and I always just assumed it was fully CG, but like the fact that it's like, like there's a bit of CG touch up, sure, but like it's like a practical suit. It's a really fucking good design and a great suit as well. Like it is like, I mean, I wasn't unsettled by it, but I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, honestly. I always thought the scene went on so much longer though. The scene is so short with the shit demon.
Oh, okay, yeah, it very much is, and like,
I always sort of dragged for some reason, but yeah, it was over so quick.
I think that I sort of lose a little bit of interest at this point in the film because we're already like an hour in, and you're still like collecting characters, which feels like such like a first act sort of thing.
Yeah,
and like we collect like Salma Hayek now as a main character.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm almost at this point like we already have enough characters, and I don't really want or care about them adding more in here for me to care about.
Yeah, right.
But you know what? This connection is 100% unintentional. But so the hollow pupilless eyes of this shit demon, that's what unsettles me, and it really reminds me of the little puppets that they use in. Have you watched Disaster Movie yet, Kane?
No, I know what you're talking about though. You're talking about the cracked out chipmunks, aren't you?
Yes, the cracked out Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh my God.
That's also not even meaning to bring out Alvin and the Chipmunks again, connecting to Jason Lee. But they used to unsettle me so much, and it's those lifeless eyes.
Yeah,
and the shit demon still has that. I would not be surprised if they both came from the same place.
Oh my God, fucking! I love just why are we covering the Kevin Smith movies? We could have been covering the Jason Friedberg, Aaron Seltzer movies. We could have done that.
Oh my God,
that would be fucking torture. It'd be like doing multiple episodes of American Pie: The Naked Mile, like that. I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
Would be. Also, we would have to like. Imagine sometimes these episodes I'll feel like just become so much us just like listing off like this cameo, this reference, this.
Yeah.
It would be we would have to just completely neglect that because it's just like, what the fuck? Hellboy is now here. What the fuck? The Hulk pops up.
Yeah, no, legit. The episodes just get shorter and shorter until like we get to like, I don't know, meet the Spartans, and it's just like 10 minutes kind of thing. It's just like, and now avoid any redundant cameo mentions.
And now there's Shrek Baby.
Oh my God.
It's so fucking ridiculous. Before we get on to like the sort of end of this movie, I want to say that probably my favorite scene in this film is the train scene.
Dude, yes! Oh my God!
And especially the reveal when the angels come into contact with the sort of main group of apostles.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. I'll never forget, like, when we watched this together in 2020, when that reveal happened, I was getting genuinely tense because I hadn't seen the movie in years, and seeing that shit play out, I'm like, oh, my God, what the hell? I'm actually tense during a funny Kevin Smith movie.
It is so... That's exactly what I have written down, is that it's so fucking tense. Like, this sort of, like, in the witch's den sort of scene where both of them aren't, like, they're not aware that they are each other's enemies in this moment. Fan-frickin-tastic.
Oh
so good.
God. Actually, you mind if I mention a favorite line from this movie, Reese, real quick before we get to the ending? I would like... Okay, so like I said, I rewatched before I had done the rewatch, this year. I rewatched Dogma last year for one reason and one reason alone. Do you remember the line that Jay spouts before Chris Rock is introduced, where he's guys like us just don't fall out the fucking sky, Chris Rock falls. Beautiful, naked, big titty women just don't fall out the sky, And
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, to those who are unaware, Kanye West or Ye use that line. He sampled the Jay line, but then also just kept quoting it in his song "Back to Me" from his album Vultures. Not a good album, wouldn't recommend it. But the song is quite a funny novelty song, and that was kind of the reason why I was like, you know what, I want to rewatch Dogma, because like when it clicked, and I was like, oh my God, that motherfucker goddamn sampled a Kevin Smith movie. Shit.
What? I did not know this. What is the song called?
Back to Me.
Okay, I am going to look at this.
It is. It's not good. I kind of have an ironic love for it, honestly.
That is... Okay, I'm going to be listening to that right away after this.
Yeah, okay, go. Alright, please, by all means. Anyways, take it away.
Okay, I think overall, a great final act. Very good, I think. Very tense, a lot happening. You really feel that $10 million budget coming out.
Completely, yeah. I literally have in my notes. I was like, "Damn, man, this Kevin Smith movie has like a plus 10 body count." Because funny enough, the first two Kevin Smith movies have a body count. Like Clerks and Mallrats have a body count, dude. Like, what the fuck? And then with Dogma, it's like, obviously then it's like okay, you want to see a movie with a body count? Oh, okay, let's top myself this time.
True, it doesn't skimp out on the blood.
That's the one thing that was missing in Chasing Amy. People should have died in that movie, but maybe that's why it didn't click with you that time around.
True. I was really craving death in this Kevin Smith marathon. I'm distracted enough by the concept that Jay gets a machine gun and shoots a machine gun in this scene, which is we haven't seen that yet. We have not seen Jay with an automatic weapon before.
No, we have not. We have not seen, we've seen Jay threaten violence, and we've seen Jay commit cartoon violence, but gun violence, that was a new one. And against a biblical being as well. I was not expecting to see that last week, but, stranger things have happened,
You know what I find is such a very close inside joke that is not even for Viewer Skew fans anymore. This is just an inside joke for Kevin Smith himself. Is his casting of God? Do you know who it is that plays God?
See, it's funny that you mention that, actually, because upon this rewatch, I'm like, okay, she looks familiar. And for a second, I thought it was Kevin Smith's wife. Who shows up in a lot of his later films, a la Clerks too. But then I'm like, no, hang on, she looks familiar, but like that's not her. I don't know. And I'm like, I'm focusing on the conclusion of this movie, but I'm also like, it's killing me. It's actually killing me. I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then it's fucking Alanis Morissette, and I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious as well, because I literally started listening to Alanis Morissette like a couple months before rewatching this film, so I found that hilarious, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know, it's weird timing and everything, but like, how is it, how is it an inside joke for Kevin Smith? He's just like a huge fan of hers?
That's legitimately it. It's just who is someone that I really, really like? Alanis Morissette. She should be God.
I mean, hey, that's cool. More power to you.
Dude, I actually think that is a great idea if he casted his wife Jen as God. I think that is hilarious. Casting your wife who is not an actress to play God and have her have no lines. Yeah. Very, very cool. To be like, this is my big blockbuster, but still I'm casting my wife as God. Of course. Very, very cool.
It'd be very Rob Zombie of him, casting his wife as like, it's like the big beauty of the film kind of thing. Yeah, it'd be very
true.
Very House of a Thousand Corpses. Yeah.
Great, intense climax, but the thing that I do feel is missing,
here we go.
What makes this feel a little bit hollow and not incredibly resonant to me. Mm-hmm. Is that Bethany's regaining of her faith feels like it lacks a bit of depth.
Right.
Because like she does regain her faith at the end.
Yeah.
But when there's a story that's trying to be told, an allegory that is here that is given to you to relate to, then there needs to be something. There needs to be some sort of believable, grounded resolution, I think, behind this to make it still feel human.
Yeah.
Where what sort of allows her to regain her faith is more that like she literally meets God and meets all of these people that are referenced in the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I've seen it. And I don't completely get how let's just say that a viewer goes into this questioning their faith and having a crisis of faith. And they see Bethany's character, they see how she has gotten to this resolution. How can they relate to this? How can they go, like, I lack the understanding of how this can be relatable and is like a human story in the end of regaining one's faith.
Right, yeah.
And then because of that, it feels a bit overall to me like that Kevin Smith focused on this larger picture, right? But in that process, he neglects a little bit of the more localized personal revelations and character arcs that he is so skillful of. And then overall for me, it feels a bit more hollow and like he's not playing at his strengths.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Honestly, it's like you mentioned before, a cinema goer goes in, questioning their own faith, and then they come out of this movie. It's like, okay, well, in order to regain my faith, I literally have to meet God. Okay, simple enough kind of thing. Like,
so I have to unalive myself. Like, yeah, what is the resolution? What do we do?
You know what? Maybe what could have been done is like, they keep like the whole Bethany kind of dying thing, or like not even have her die kind of thing. Just like, I don't know, like if you're gonna have a scene of like some of like God being there kind of thing, just have Bethany like not know or like think that like she hallucinated it kind of thing, like just not have a little bit more of a subtle human conclusion as to like why she regains her faith, rather than just like I met God and she is played by Alanis Morissette. Like that's just it. Okay.
Yeah. As well as like how does how her storyline would interact with the concept of this being about like faith has to be updated, right? Catholicism has to almost like rewrite the book a little bit to suit a modern audience.
Yeah.
How is it rewritten other than the only way that I see the film saying that religion can be rewritten is through the concept of its own existence. Like, as in the film Dogma existing and being created by someone who is Catholic and does like love and have resonance in the Bible, that then it existing and being a religious text in a way, like taken seriously as a religious text, is then in practice updating of the Bible,
right,
and like is updating of this like Catholic structure. But then, and I think that it's something that really it can't really be tested. But I think that it sort of proves the test then if people take it seriously, if people do resonate with this movie in a religious way. And I think that ultimately people would. I think that people apparently, Kevin got like emails from people, religious figures, saying that they were moved by the film. Wow. But it's a bit of ambitious thing, right? To be like, I am the solution.
Very
This
good, Kevin.
film
Very good.
is the solution. Yeah. But do you have any last thoughts before I close it up?
I mean, what can I add apart? What can I add? Compared to your quotations of Kevin Smith spouting the gospel that he and Dogma are the solution to religious crises of faith. I mean, it's a good movie, but I am sadly still not on the whole Catholicism train. I'm sorry, guys.
May not be the greatest commentary on faith ever, but in terms of the View Askew universe and Kevin Smith's filmography, I still have faith. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like a podcast without the arse.